Oh, I can just feel the anger upon everybody clicking onto this video and listening to some Nintendo YouTuber belittle some of your favorite Nintendo Switch games. I made a video a while back about my top 10 favorite Nintendo Switch games, and while that video is really good, I also wanted to go on the flip side of things and be a little bit more negative and critical. And while sure, I can be super positive and think everything is great and there's nothing wrong in the gaming industry, I gotta admit, there's some rough games on the Nintendo Switch. So today we're going to be talking about my top 10 least favorite Nintendo Switch games. Now, I need to preface before this video gets going, half of these games are not even that bad, okay? Actually, I would argue all these games are playable to some extent. They all, well, except some, have this, Nintendo seal of quality. So they're all, like, good by their own merits. It's just I personally found disappointment in them for one reason or another. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Let's get into number 10. And number 10... I could hype this up, but let's just get into it. Mario and Luigi Brothership. Now, I made a video a while back about this game saying how, IGN was a little too harsh with this game. And after finishing it, look, I'm not going to say IGN's right. I feel like, the things they said about the game were a little too out there. But I think they had a point in regards to, the game's quality, overall quality, I mean. Because, yeah, sure, I love it because it is a Mario and Luigi game. Because, look, I gotta be honest with myself. If you took out Mario and Luigi and this was just some regular game, I would not enjoy it as much as I did. Because, yeah, sure, while it does have amazing gameplay, it's just everything else about it I just could not vibe with personally. The pacing is really god-awful when it comes to getting, like, new bros attacks and whatnot. The music is really rough. I could not get attached to some of the characters. Then also the game was just struggling to run on the Switch. I don't know what happened, but the game was just struggling after a certain point. Now, obviously, it's not noticeable and it doesn't break the game for you, you can still play the game. But it was really bothersome, man. It was really bothersome. I want to be immersed in my games, and having frame rate dips, ugh. I mean, a game can have frame rate dips, but if it's a noticeable frame rate dip, that's when I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? But I do want to make it clear, just because it's up here in this list, in this video, it does not mean it's a bad game. But that's why I have it in number 10. But again, keep in mind, just because I have it in here does not mean I think it's a bad game. I just, I was personally a little disappointed in it. But I am so happy that Mario and Luigi's back on the Switch. So, who am I to complain, if we're really talking here. But if I'm playing with fire in terms of games that people like, the games that, people put on a pedestal. And, depending on who you ask, some people would think that this game could be like one of the best Nintendo Switch games on the Switch. Yeah, I'm gonna get some flack for this one. Splatoon 3. Now, okay, let's calm down a bit, all right? Can we hear me out? Can we listen to what the funny frog guy has to say, please? I beg. Okay, so I played the heck out of Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 1. All right, like, I promise you, me putting it on this list is not because I just hate shooters, all right? I know what makes Splatoon fun. I know, for me personally, I know what it is I'm looking for in a Splatoon game. And Splatoon 3, it's one of those games where it's like, it's so good, right? Because it does so many good things. But it also takes like 3 steps back on every single thing it does. Actually, in fact, I actually brought up a handy graphic over here by Jack on Twitter.com, which, pretty much details exactly what I'm going to say here. And I'm just going to read it verbatim here and show it on screen. Shout outs to him. It has great movement mechanics for fast travel and maneuvers, but the map design makes them feel irrelevant. And an effective way of distributing content regularly, but highlighted the shortcomings with the lack of content each update. A fun little side mode to enjoy in the form of table turf, but hidden away without fast travel and lacked incentive to play. An extremely fun and exciting story mode, but a story that lacks the cohesive elements of the previous ones. Pretty much, yeah, I mean, it took what worked with the Octo expansion, but then, bring over all the meat and the sauce, Then you have an amazing diverse idol group with fun personalities and music talent, but lack any sort of exploration, which is funny because they're literally in the single player mode. But, I have one of my mutuals on my Discord really loves Shivers, so, who am I to talk? A great DLC with a fun story and gameplay loop, but lacked enough content to make players captivated as Octo expansion did. Also, to just add on that, because I really loved Octo expansion Splatoon 2, Side Order kind of felt more like a summer, I was going to say summer vacation. It feels more like a side arc, It doesn't, like, break, the grounds. It doesn't break the Splatoon lore like Octo expansion did. Side Order it was just kind of an extra thing. I wish it reinvented. Maybe it's crazy to expect that, but Octo expansion did that. And honestly, Side Order is just kind of a bummer for me because it just didn't, like, add much to the lore that we didn't already know about. A plethora of new weapons and specialty use, but the lack of kits squandered players of options for combat. Now, I will say Salmon Run is probably the best part of Splatoon 3. The King Salmonids have, reinvented the whole game. in that mode. And the new maps are really fun. Honestly, if there was a point in, you know, Splatoon 3 where I had to be like, oh yeah, I love that part about Splatoon 3, it's got to be Salmon Run. But yeah, I pretty much just agree with this entire graphic. And I know I've been rambling a lot about Splatoon 3, but this is just to show that, like, I'm extremely frustrated with Splatoon 3 because on one hand, it is the definitive Splatoon experience. On the other hand, though, it is taking like 3 steps back in everything. Oh, and not to mention the worst offender, in my personal opinion, no shifty stations. That was my favorite part of Splatoon 2 in the Splatfest. Where the heck are the shifty stations? But, you know, at least the final concert or whatever was really cool. So I'll give them props for that. I really love the final concert. But anyway, I've been rambling about this game for too long. Let's get into actually, like, mediocre games. You know, games that actually deserve to be on this list. You know, like Paper Mario, the Origami King. Now, again, I said at the beginning of the video, but just because a game's on this list does not necessarily mean it's a bad game. It's just disappointing by Nintendo Switch standards, if that makes sense. I say this because while Paper Mario The Origami King has really creative text and it's really great visually, and pretty much all the themes and the, you know, the music and everything else is really creative, the gameplay is so... Oh my god, what were they thinking with this goddamn wheel? It's like the exact opposite of Mario and Luigi Brothers Ship's problem, where it's like, I love pretty much everything about Origami King except the gameplay. Whereas Mario & Luigi Brothers Ship, I love the gameplay, but I'm not really a fan of anything else. It's such a weird, like, dichotomy to have here with this game, you know? Because I genuinely did enjoy my time with Origami King, but also I did enjoy 1,000 Year Door a little bit more, so... Yeah, not much to say there, other than I want to talk about a way worse offender in regards to mediocre gaming. And that game would be Nintendo Switch Sports. How do you mess this up? Like genuinely, how do you mess this up? Actually, wait, hold up. I could just put my reaction here, and it perfectly sums up how I feel about this game. Oh my god, wait. Wii Sports?
Nintendo Switch Sports. Please take a look.
Here are the sports.
And if you thought the characters weren't bad enough, dude, oh my god, they have a freaking seasonal battle pass. Okay, it's not a seasonal battle pass, but it feels like it. It wanted to be a live service game, and it failed tremendously, all right? All we wanted was Wii Sports. That's all we wanted. And this game somehow, like, it took the skin of Wii Sports and somehow messed it up. That's what bothers me here. It somehow messed that up. You know, it somehow brought a bunch of sports that nobody cared about. It somehow butchered the ones we did like. And like the only one that was actually good was the bowling. Everything else I was not a fan of. I just wanted to bowl. That's all I wanted to do. But yeah, very, very disappointed. I think out of the, you know, the ones I've talked about so far, Nintendo Switch Sports is definitely the game that I knew for a fact deserved to be in this video and on this list. The other 3 here, if you want to make an argument for them not being on this list, I totally get ya. But Nintendo Switch Sports, you cannot fight me on that one. Like, come on. But speaking of games that people are going to argue with me shouldn't be on this list, Fire Emblem Engage, baby! Now, I know, I have a bunch of mutuals who love this game to death, flaws and all. But I just could not get into it. I don't know, this might just be because of the fact that I'm starting not to really like, you know, tactics RPGs. At one point I thought I really did like tactics RPGs, but then growing up I started to realize I don't like them as much. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know, because it's weird, because the gameplay is solid. Like, it's perfect. Like, and what is it? They added the engage mechanic where you have an emblem ring and it summons a character from the past. And it's kind of like a Mega Evolution, but like in Fire Emblem, if that makes sense. So I think that part's really cool, but it's like everything else. I could not really get attached to the characters. The story kind of felt like an anime plot, and, you know, spoiler warning, you can skip like 5 seconds ahead. They name dropped the goddamn Fire Emblem. And I know they've done that in previous games, but somehow the way they did it in this game was just so freaking comedic. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I don't know, like, and maybe this is just a me thing, but playing this game, I felt like I was playing an ad for Fire Emblem Heroes. Is that a weird take? Is that a weird thing to, you know, discredit the game for? I don't know. This is my video. I don't care. Yeah, I did not like Fire Emblem Engage. I think the music was pretty cool. I did like the new arrangement of the Lost in Thoughts All Alone. Because they did add a bunch of maps for all the emblems or whatever to reference their old games and whatnot. I did love the new rendition. I was a huge fan of it. But yeah, the rest of the game, I don't know, but you know what? Hey, if you guys like the game, let's get a discussion going down in the comments below. If you guys can convince me why Fire Emblem Engage is a good game, let me know. But until then, I'm gonna keep trashing this game in every single video I make. All right, but after this point, if you argue with me about these games not being on this list, we're genuinely gonna we're gonna look each other in the eye and we're gonna have a talk. All right, we're just gonna have a talk. If you can somehow convince me that this game does not deserve to be on this list, I will be shocked, because I personally think every game after this point deserves to be on this list. Anyway, Mario Strikers Battle League. Oh my god. You know, actually, I just want to make a confession right now. I didn't buy the game. You're right. I made a video on it, and I played the tests, the kickfire, whatever the heck you call it. I played the demo or whatever. And because I realized very quickly what that demo offered was the whole game. There's nothing else. There's no new maps. There's no new I mean, there's a couple of new characters, but there's just not much of the game at all. You're paying $60 for barely anything. All right, you know, Mario Tennis Aces is literally right there. And I'm not going to say that game is the greatest sports game ever, but it has content to justify the $60. This game has barely anything to stand on, even with the updates, even accounting the updates, it doesn't have anything. It still sucks that you bring a beloved IP like Strikers back from the dead, and this is how you treat it. And also, one thing that, me personally, I was excited for, I was excited to see, the characters get all pissed off and everything. Because that was the appeal of the old Strikers games, right? And, yeah, I get it. I know it's modern Nintendo, but come on. You could just see that level 5 once to make them angry and do funny things, but Nintendo's like, no, stop it, okay? Which is weird, because they'll do that crap in the mainline games, but if it's a spin-off or a sports game, no. Yeah, you have to sit down. But yeah, that game is literally the definition of disappointment. But this next game, I might ruffle some feathers, but I just knew for a fact that this game was going to be on this list. Guys, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, okay, let's talk positives, all right? The music is really good. Catching Pokemon is fun. That's about all I got. Okay, I guess I also did really enjoy the DLC. I did enjoy Kieran and Carmen a lot. But outside of that, if I'm really thinking about it, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet left a massive stain on the community like no other. You know, not compared to the next game I'm going to talk about, but we're talking about Scarlet and Violet right now. Every time I look at it, I just wonder how Pokemon can live with themselves knowing that this game is out on the market and that this game not only sold 25 million units, but kids, a new generation of Pokemon fans are playing this game. This is going to be their first Pokemon game, and they're going to go around saying this is the best game ever, and they're going to be nostalgic for this game. And it makes me so unsettled. Is it crazy to be mad at a game because other people are liking it? Yeah, probably. But also, this game is just so graphically and, you know, why am I even mentioning graphics? Everything about it is pretty much underbaked. It needed a whole nother year in the oven, but Pokemon Company said no. And they pooped this thing out anyway. And yeah, and now we're just left to pick up the crumbs, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I will say I did enjoy riding around with Maridon Koridon, and I did like the DLC a lot, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, and I'm sorry. I stand by where I put this game, all right? Scarlet and Violet was a disappointment and should have not been released in the year 2022. I believe that's when the game dropped. I will put an editor's note if I'm wrong. All right, but next up, this one actually might make people mad. But here, actually, let's just unveil the curtain. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, okay, I just want to preface Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've come to terms with it not being a bad game. It's a boring game. It is genuinely so bland and uninspired. All right, it's not even really the game, okay? It's hard to explain. It's not even really the game, because the game's all right. It is your average Pokemon game. You could start with this game and get along fine in the world, all right? It's a good starting point. Actually, I would argue it's a pretty dang good starting point if you want to start with this game. If you want to, by all means. The problem with this game is everything about it leading up to its launch and aftermath and what it did to the entire Pokemon community. If you guys don't know, Pokemon Sword and Shield is the first mainline Pokemon game on a home console. And this was their chance to blow the gaming industry out of the water, show what Pokemon could look like on a modern console, not restricted to a handheld. And not only did they underdeliver in regards to the gameplay, the graphics, and everything else, they also decided to start cutting content in the form of half the Pokédex. And ever since then, the whole community has been split. Guess which side you all think I'm on? Look, I genuinely mean it from the bottom of my heart. Even if you guys are like disliking the video and you're commenting about how I'm unreasonable and I, have no idea what I'm talking about, I genuinely mean it from the bottom of my heart. I want the best for Pokemon. And games like Pokemon Sword and Shield, it shows me that Pokemon does not care. Maybe not so much Game Freak, even though Game Freak has said some very questionable things in regards to the Pokemon's future and whatnot, in regards to like wanting to do more mobile games and people not having attention spans, for post-game content and whatnot. For all I know, this is the Pokemon company forcing Game Freak to push these games out. But regardless of whatever it is, this is the content we're stuck with. And Sword and Shield is forever going to be out there. And they're never going to go back and make it better. They can never go back and fix what Pokemon Sword and Shield did to the community. And that, in my opinion, is what makes this whole game a disappointment. Not even the game itself, because honestly, the Gigantamax and the battle music is all really dang good. But it's just everything else that came with the game is the problem. Moving on. Now, okay, I know for a fact this game will not make anybody mad. If this game makes you mad, I'm going to be shocked. But alright, Yoshi's Crafted World makes it to number 2. Now, I don't even need to say anything. Can we just play the gacha music? Let's get that gacha music on. Come on. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy for putting Yoshi's Crafted World up that high, but in my opinion, I genuinely didn't have a fun time. Honestly, like the only thing cool I remember about it is that you could flip, you could flip the terrain and play the levels backwards, which I think was pretty cool. But at the same time, there was just nothing else aside from that. Like, yes, it looks visually stunning. I love all the origami. I love all the handcrafted stuff. Like, it's so creative, right? But it has nothing else backing up that visual fidelity, if that makes sense. Like, in my opinion, it was just a generic platformer that I just did not have fun with at all, compared to Yoshi's Woolly World, which is crazy because, there's pros and cons to both of them, and some might say Crafted World might be better in some areas. But in my opinion, I would have just rathered more Yoshi's Woolly World. All right. Now, maybe that's not Crafted World's fault. Like, maybe that's, just because it's a different visual style, maybe, it doesn't mean that, the next Yoshi game was going to be good. But I'm still pinning the blame on this game because I did not have a fun time with it. And I was so hyped for this game because I am a huge Yoshi guy. I always pick Yoshi in Mario Kart. And to play this game, I was, I don't know. Instead of me being happy, I was crying to the gacha music. So that was fun. But speaking of games I'm crying to, let's get into number 1. And number 1, this game I feel like deserved to be on this list. There's an argument to be made that any of the games here, if you were the biggest fan of these games, you could put them on your best Nintendo Switch list. All right, you go ahead if you want to. But this game we will not have a discussion about. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So this game is a remake of the Generation 4 games that released in the late 2000s, right? And, it's pretty good. Those games were pretty good, right? But then they eventually released a better version, called Pokemon Platinum. And that game was crazy, all right? It added a lot of new content, such as, Giratino's whole, distortion world, giving more depth to characters like Cyrus and Cynthia, among other cool changes, right? But then when it came time for Generation 4 to get the remake treatment, we were all thinking it was going to get something similar to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where they integrated, the game's new mechanics into the lore and whatnot. Even if it wasn't going to do that, I still wanted it to be remade in the modern standards, in the modern day. But what did they do? They made the game exactly the same. And not only that, they made the worst looking art style I have ever goddamn seen. Is that an exaggeration and maybe a diss towards the artist? Maybe. But you know what? Actually, no, it's not the artist's fault, okay? They were paid to make the game look like this, all right? Those artists probably wanted to make something so amazing, and they were forced to make this. And if I'm wrong about that, I am sorry. Now, look, I know some people really like this game because they like Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. But my argument to that is you should just go play the original then at that point. Because what does this game have to offer that those games don't? Alright, let's be brutally honest with ourselves. What does this game offer that you can't get by playing those games? I don't know. The only other way you can look at this game being a good thing for the Nintendo Switch is the fact that it gives us a traditional Pokemon game. But does that give it an excuse to be the way as it is? Like, do gamers not deserve to get a good game and deserve to get an improved version of one of our favorite generations of Pokemon? I think we deserve a good game, me personally. This has definitely got to be a discussion for another video, but in my opinion, Pokemon had a really rough generation on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm really hoping with the Switch 2, and I guess Legends EA, I'm really hoping we get back to, we get back on track with the Pokemon games and they go back to being, something that I personally fell in love with, because what we're getting here with the Nintendo Switch era is just not it. But yeah, that is my top 10 most disappointing first-party Nintendo Switch titles. Did you agree or disagree with my list? Whether you did or not, I still want a discussion in the comments. Come on, guys, let's get something going in there. Let's get something crazy. Let's start a war down there. That'd be really funny. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and I will see you all in another video. Bye-bye.